Cool. I hit the record button.
Oh, cool.
And now we are live. So first, let me go ahead and share my screen. Hide the porn. Just kidding. Two.
What Chan do?
I think I need two, right? Bam. There we go. Cool.
Cool.
So let me now pull up the LearnCo. Maybe a good place to start is, where did y'all get to in this code challenge, and what do you feel like you are lacking in understanding?
I haven't even opened it, so this is.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
from what I could tell, the blood oath is pretty similar to the code challenge. At least it was for me. So let's go ahead and break down the problem statement first. So we're modeling a domain we're building out. There is a non-discriminatory cult recruitment platform. That's good they specified that. Cults will have many followers, and followers can join many cults. Now, this is what we were kind of saying during stand down, is that doesn't really make sense. Like, it doesn't really make sense that if I'm a follower, I could go ahead and join multiple cults. But for now, let's just pretend like that's the way it is, because that's what the problem says. So in other words, if I'm a cult, I could have a lot of followers, and if I'm a follower, I could be in many cults. Cool. And if you're going to join a cult, you need a blood oath. That's the other thing that the problem statement says right here. Are you guys able to see my screen right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So that's the other definition specified right there in that first paragraph. So I think a good thing to start out with is maybe drawing that ERD. And this is how I always start my stuff. So let's say we have these three data types. We have cult, oath, follower. First of all, can anybody tell me how I would draw out this ERD? By the way, what does ERD stand for? Anybody?
I've heard it used. I cannot remember, though.
Oh, I think it stands for Entity Relationship Diagram. So each of these are entities. Sounds cool. But yeah, so anyways, that's what this, basically just these structures that you already know what they are intuitively. Just remember they're called an ERD.
Okay.
It might be worth committing to memory just in case anybody else wants to talk about it with you in the future.
Gotcha.
But so anyways, now let's talk about, what is my ERD actually going to look like? What do I need to add? Something's missing connecting these. I did a little bit of it for you, so that way we can kind of move along through stuff. And I figure if we record this, then you guys can look at it after as well.
Gonna put some crow's feet in there somewhere.
Right. So where are the crow's feet going to go?
On the cult and follower on either side of oath.
Okay.
Like yeah, lots of followers or like
one or two.
oath.
That's one, and that's two. One or two. As far as, like, let's say the crow's feet could be like this, or the crow's feet could be like there. Which
Okay.
correct?
Sorry. Like all cults have oaths, right?
So
it's like,
let's think about it this way. Let's put it this way. A cult has many oaths. Is that correct?
yeah.
Cool. And each oath has one cult.
Yes.
So how would I draw these feet? Which side would be the one, and which side would be the many?
Be closer to the
cult.
the oath box.
The feet.
What would be closer to the oath box, the feet or the one?
The feet.
The feet. Okay, so right, because I think that the way that we could say this is, one cult can have many oaths, but one oath can only have one cult. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So likewise, one oath can have many followers. One follower can have many oaths, right? So we could do that.
Follower can have multiple. Yeah.
Cool. So why did we do this? What is the main thing that we pull out of this?
Just gives you an idea of the relationship between the classes and kind of.
Sure. What is it going to change in our code?
Like when we write methods, going from like cult to follower, like, or I don't know how to really say this.
So the way that I internalize this, and you can internalize it how you want. In general, anytime you have a one-to-many relationship, you don't even have to look at this half of the screen for a second.
Right.
In general, when you have a one-to-many relationship, the many data type, the many class, it has to store some information about the one, not the other way around. So in other words, what we know from this diagram where the crow's feet are, I'm going to have to add a term for this that describes this. So in other words, my oath, I'm going to have to add a follower ID. And I'm going to have to add a cult ID. And I know this knowing nothing else about any of the attributes in here. In other words, cult in that problem description. Have you guys looked at that problem description yet?
No.
We'll take a little bit more time like dissecting that. But in other words, what I know at this point, cults can have a bunch of attributes. Maybe a name of a cult, maybe the year it's formed, whatever attributes cult has, I don't know. Whatever attributes follower has, I don't know. Maybe oath has some attributes. Maybe this oath was made at a certain date. Maybe this oath was made at a certain time. Maybe this oath has a certain slogan, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that I know that no matter what, because of how this diagram is drawn out, I know that an oath has to have a follower ID and an oath has to have a cult ID. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Got it.
So that, to me, that's the major purpose of setting up those ERD diagrams. ERD diagrams is redundant. That's the main goal of setting up those ERDs. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is what I like to do is I like to make this table. And in this table, I just like to list all the attributes that I'm going to be making. So that way I can kind of keep track of everything when I'm building out my classes. So let's look at this problem statement and try and figure out what attributes do I need in each one. So I'm going to do a little bit of poking around, and maybe you guys should at the same time. Do you guys have the link to this? Because it's probably faster for me to just Slack it to you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You have it in there as well, but for now, I'll just Slack it in your channel. And why don't you guys take a couple minutes to see if you could fill out this table. And I'm going to do the same because I actually haven't looked at this problem in forever.
Okay.
Cool. I'm going to set my timer. Set timer for 2 minutes. Okay, we're not done yet. I just was getting back to my seat and relishing in the fact. While you're at it, maybe start thinking about the methods we have to write. I'm gonna give it another minute because I'm a little behind here.
Okay.
They made so many functions on this that I remember that when I did this, I only did like half the problem just because I thought it was like at a certain point it was like beating a dead horse. Like it would be better to start from scratch and just like redo the whole problem than to do a lot of these because it's almost like asking you for the same exact logic.
Yeah.
But that was just me. And by the way, that's something you can keep in mind while you're learning. You don't have to, if you feel like you understand a concept, you don't need to keep beating that in. You can learn something else until you find out that maybe you don't understand that concept that you thought you knew as well. And that's okay. That's what I do. Name.
Okay.
Age. Colts. Certain age. Okay. Y'all ready?
Yep.
So let's talk about what attributes is cult going to have.
I got name, age, location, and slogan.
I agree.
Sweet.
Population.
So let's talk about population after. I'm not actually going to list that as an attribute. Actually,
Oh, that's just a method of followers.
Exactly. I'm really glad that you could answer that. Exactly. In other words, the amount of followers is the population.
Right.
Awesome. What about oath? What are oath's attributes going to be?
I just have initiation date.
By the way, part of the reason why I got pissed off the first time I did this is because I left this off. So like to recreate it was just too much of a pain, and I was like, fuck that. Anyways, what about follower?
Name, age, life motto.
Perfect. Cool. We have a good place to start. Let's see if I can remember what the fuck I'm doing. So first of all, this is how you kind of create a project in VS Code. Like this is the way I like to do it. This is just my terminal right now. I actually don't have it instructing. I'm gonna see. Oh, actually, I'm gonna undo that for a reason. Ahmed today showed me this. Hey, it worked. Look at that. If you type in take, it's like doing 2 lines of code. It's like doing make directory and CDing into that directory.
Okay.
So that's kind of nifty. Now, I am going to think that I already have, yep. Do you guys know how to clone a repository? I don't know why that didn't work.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Something's not working. See if I can get it. Fork. Clone. Copy. Git clone. Bam. Kablamo. CD there. You guys know, I know, Daniel, you know the code function. Indiana, do you know what the code function is? If I type in code into my terminal, you know what's going on there? Oh, shit.
Yeah, it just runs VS Code in that directory.
Yep, exactly. So what about that? If I type in code dot, what does that do?
It runs it in a directory back.
So dot, one dot is actually just refers to the current directory. Two dots.
Oh, it's this one. Yeah.
Yep.
That's.
So all I'm saying is like open the current directory is basically what that line of code means. Bam. That line of code. Cool. So now I got my stuff. So the way that they like you to do it, just to clarify, they like you to set it up in your environment and then build your classes and your models. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so first we got to create our models. What? Do I want to update that? How long do you guys think that'll take?
Go for it.
No, not long. Is that Oh My ZH? Is that your terminal?
Oh My Zish is a GitHub repo you could download that customizes your terminal. I bet my terminal looks different from yours. So you see how my terminal exists in the beginning? This is literally just, all mine does is list the current directory, and that's because the template for the Oh My Zish is iGeek. That's a rabbit hole we could go down at a different time.
Sure.
But for now, let's work on this. So what I'm going to do is I want to go into app.models, and I want to create a file. So the way that I'm going to do that is I could do it a couple ways. I could do touch.app and then models. And then I can type in, like, let's say, you know, blood oath. Whoops. And that worked. Another way I could do it is I could cd into app.models. And then maybe let's say I want to make the remaining two. I could go ahead and do cult.rb and follower.rb with a space there. Now I could actually make two in one line of code. So in this case, I think it would actually be easier to cd into it and make those two. I imagine that there's more complex Zish commands that allow you to do both at the same time. But we're not going to worry about that now. Another little trick command here. So right now I'm in the root directory, and then underneath that is apps, and then one layer deeper is models. So if I want to go one directory out, I do one dot. If I want to do two directories out, I do there, and that should take me to the home. Yep. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Anyways, now we can go ahead and start, you know, just creating some basic classes. Class, we'll call this blood oath. Oh.
Yeah, and Indiana, for the challenge, the environment's totally set up already, so you don't have to worry about this stuff for now.
Oh, I took it today. I didn't finish, but
Okay.
Did you finish it?
No, I got halfway through. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
I did something where I like muted a line, like I couldn't see a line in my code, but it was saying like doesn't recognize like CU. I don't know, but it was like I don't know what happened, but it was there, just hidden. I couldn't see it in my
crazy
environment.
All right, so what are our variables going to be in Blood Oath?
It's a Blood Oath.
What is
So it's
this?
just a date, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, initiation. Yeah.
Yeah. Initiation date. Okay. What else is going to be in there?
That's it, right?
Ah. What did we say is going to be? Actually, I should have clarified. What about these guys?
Is this the required relative deal?
Oh, you guys are using active record for this?
Uh,
Oh, wait, no, require relative. You're talking about something else. No,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that inside of this class, now what is follower ID, and we're going to need cult ID as parameters.
I understand like why this stuff is important, but I haven't seen anybody do this.
You guys haven't done a many-to-many relationship yet?
We have, but not like this.
Yeah, it's just different.
How do you
this
set up your join table?
we use like typically two methods. One going to next, like I'm not really sure. It's all like relatively fuzzy, but typically it's like
So why don't you go ahead and show me some code of many-to-many relationship that you've done? Because I have a feeling it's there, and maybe you just didn't do that part, or there's something else in that thing's place.
Right.
Because it's possible I forgot something, but I'm pretty sure that.
Oh no, I think that I'm not doubting. I just I haven't seen this methodology.
I'm curious what the methodology you guys are learning is, though, because it's honestly, after we do this chunk of stuff, you learn like a different way of kind of doing it, and it's easy to forget like the initial way that you did it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm teaching you the right way that they want you to learn. So if you could go ahead and show me that, then I could just double check. But I'm pretty sure, think about whichever model is going to be the join table. If you could just show me the code for that. And all I really need to see is the initialized part in there. And it's also totally possible that I'm genuinely forgetting something. I am human. And
I don't think so.
Yeah, so what I would do here, John, is just they have us put a colon in front of initiation date.
Sure.
Then underneath it, you would just do @ initiation date and then equals. But I'm not sure about that part you were talking about, though.
So do you, like I said, do you have an example of a many-to-many relationship that you guys have done?
I'm trying to find something. Like most of it is just in like the lectures that I've been watching. I have some like many-to-many open like lectures just in YouTube, you know. And I'm looking at like those initialized, but
So you weren't storing the just to clarify, and this is worth working through, you weren't storing the any sort of information about the classes that your join table was referencing.
no, if there was anything else, it was just add all and self in the initialize.
Because that I understand. I understand that there's this that's supposed to be here, like the. Which, by the way, do you guys understand what that line of code is doing?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd like to see the follower and cult ID
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure,
methodology.
and I'm not 100% sure if I'm doing it correct. Why I'm a little paranoid right now. It's like literally I have not looked at it forever, but let's see here. So actually, we won't get to using Blood Oath until we initialize our other things. So in other words, cult, we're going to initialize with what were our parameters for?
Name.
Name. Yeah.
Name, age, location, and slogan.
Name equals. Oh, whoops. Oh, I have that backwards.
Yeah.
Age, location, and slogan. Location. Whoops. Well, so first we can get that to work. Make sure that that's running. And to do that, we would go in our environment. You guys understand how require all works? Looks like it's already installed in here. I want to run bundle install just in case. Not. Let's do require all. Then let's go ahead and just make some cults. Cult1 equals cult.new. And we have all these parameters. Oh, whoops. Name. Age. If my syntax is a little off, please forgive me. It's been a long time since I've done one this way.
I think where your arguments are, the colon goes before the word.
Great, thank you. Name, age, location, slogan. Huh. What is the error right now? You sure about that?
I think there's an I after IN, an initial.
You think there's a what?
INIT.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, shoot. I'm thinking of the adder reader that has a colon before, but when you're just initializing, you just
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was
yeah. That's my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the word comma space.
All right, that makes sense. Cool. And then we also know. By the way, what is at represent?
An empty array. Yeah.
Just this part of it. What does that mean?
Sorry, what part of it?
This part?
Oh, it's just setting at all to an empty array. So when you put
what type of variable is it? What do the two at signs mean? Because I could just say this. What's the difference between those two lines?
I'm guessing the at sign has to do with the the reader, which we'll add later.
The @ sign, the two @ signs make it a class variable versus one @ sign is an instance variable versus no @ signs is just whatever, wherever that variable is what it is. So what a class variable means is anywhere inside any of the methods that I make, I have that is accessible. So let's say I do right here, self dot choose, right? And inside of this method, all is going to equal the same thing that it does here. And it's going to equal the same thing that it would if it was inside of here because it's a class variable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So now, let me ask you a question. Let's see. So let's say I have @name. What would @name look like inside of self.cheese? So here @name would actually be undefined because @name is an instance variable and you're putting it inside of a class method, right? Remember the self makes it a class method. So if you have an instance variable inside of a class method, it's not specified what that is. Does that make sense?
Hang on just a second. We lost you for like a good 20, 30 seconds. You were frozen.
Weird for a second. Can you guys still hear me?
We got you now. But you're saying like like an instance variable, like this is or not going to work within that class method.
What do you think?
No. Well,
I think you're
yes.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It won't work. It won't work because think about the circumstance in which you call a class method. You call a class method on a class. So in other words, I wouldn't call cult on a specific cult. I wouldn't call a class method on a specific cult. I would call a class method on the class cult. So that would be for if I want to look at something relating all the objects pertaining to that class. And this is an instance method. So an instance is literally an instance of a class, right? So in other words, an instance of a cult might be the Blue Oyster Cult. It might be Higgs Cult 9000. Whatever you want to call it, it's a specific cult, not the general thing containing cults. So this @name, it's almost like you're asking for the name of a specific cult, but since it's an instance variable and not a class variable, it doesn't really make sense. Whereas @all you defined as a class method, class variable. So that means that whenever you have this class, this is what this is going to mean. So when you're down here and you're calling @all, it's the same as this @all. And when you're shoveling in self, what you're doing is you're shoveling in the object that you've created. So in other words, what you're saying is I just created an object. At the end of creating that object, I'm going to add it into my array so that way I can store all of my cults. So let's see if we got this running, first of all. And let's go ahead and make our all method just so we can check that too while we're at it. What am I going to write here to make my all method?
The def self.all and @all.
Good. And can you explain to me what that's doing, Dan?
So I'll try to logic it out. I was referencing one of our other labs here, but so self.all that I have notes on it here. So it's gonna be a class method.
So the way that, well, for a second, let's ignore that it's a class method. All you're doing is outputting @all because in Ruby, just if you're inside of a method, I could be inside of anything. Let's say I'm inside of a method called display cheese, right? And I just type in puts, or actually I could really just type in, not even display cheese, return would be a better word. Return cheese. And then I type in cheese. That's going to return cheese because it's an implicit return.
Right.
In other words, if I define something here and it's not like A equals cheese, it's just literally saying cheese, that's what it's going to default to returning. As well as that, I think in Ruby, as well as that, I could actually say A equals cheese and it would return the same thing without actually specifying return here. And the reason why is just because A is the last piece of code inside of this method. So in other words, if I say B equals 5, C equals 7, D equals 8, whatever, and A equals cheese, the reason why it's going to return cheese is because it's the last line of code. If I were to do that, it would return 8. If I were to do that, it would return still 8, and there it would return 7. Does that make sense? And that's something you can test too, but yeah. Cool. And I'm not sure about that last part, but because I normally don't, if you think about it, if you're returning something, there's no point of specifying its variable name 90% of the time, right? So in other words, if I'm planning on returning C equals 7 here, I might as well just type in 7. But anyways, so going back to this self.all, the way that I think about this is you have a variable here. You've specified that in your class. When you initialize an instance of that class, at the end of that initialization method, what you're doing is you're shoveling in that object. So in other words, let's say I create Colt1, then that means that as soon as I create Colt1, at the end of that line of code, what it's doing is it's adding to this blank array. It's going to turn it into, Colt1 object, right? And then as soon as I run the line of code, like let's say colt.new, and then whatever for Colt2, right? Then what it's going to do is it's going to add Colt2 object there. In other words, every single line of these that I write, it's going to create a new object and it's going to add it to that array, and it's stored as a class method. In other words, the class is storing that data every single time. Is that starting to become maybe a little more intuitive?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is let's just test it. We're going to go for binding.pry. So let's go to our environment. What are our things? I don't know that I remember the format, but is it this? Name equals fluffy kitty Colt. Oh, Colt doesn't have age, does it?
It has like start like the year it was founded.
Does it have,
Or
I'm gonna call it founded. What's the right syntax?
an integer.
Yeah. Is this the right? I just don't remember if it's supposed to be. I think it's the right syntax.
Yeah, you don't even have to have founded equals. It's just as long as it's in the right
Oh, I see.
space. Yeah.
Sorry about that. There's a different way of doing it. Location is going to be. Where's the kitty Colt going to be? Catland, whatever. Well, cats, bro. They purr and shit. Cool. But now let's see if that runs. Let's make a couple others that we'll have to change. Cool. Cool. Let's see if it works. What line of code am I going to do to execute this page?
Ruby environment.rb.
Ruby config.
Good one. Require all issue. Let me try. They use require relative. See if that works. I guess that worked. Whatever. I'm not going to question why right now. Cool. So it looks like it worked. So let's look at my cult dot. First of all, how do I pull up an array of all my cults?
Add at all.
Is that what am I going to type in this line of code? Am I going to type add at all? Let's see. That didn't work.
Cult.all with a capital C.
Why?
Because that's the class.
Boom. Good work, James. Someone been teaching you. No.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So that worked. All of them were founded in 1999. I guess that was a popular year for animal cults. We could fix that. Point is that now you can look in here, and like we said, what we did here is that we took this array, we added all that shit to it. Oh, whoops, that's Bloodos. We added all that shit to it, and now we have a return of all of them. Cool. So we got that working. Before we do anything else, let's get the other ones working. You guys agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, we don't need location for cult. Do we? I have for follower. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. No, that's right.
That's Catland and.
Yeah, we do need that. I just was getting my, okay. So followers now, oh shit. Let's go ahead and start and say that we need to initialize, right? And then we need our parameters. So we need name, whoops, almost typed in anime, age, life motto, cool, and I forgot a def. What's my next line of code gonna look like?
At name equals at, or I'm sorry, equals name.
Yep, I knew what you meant. Little trick here. So what I just did there, I held Alt and then Shift, and then I just pressed down, and then it duplicates that line of code. And then the next little trick that I've been doing is I highlight that word, and I hit Command D. I just press it once. If I hold it down, it'll do all of them. See that? How it highlights everything? Or I just want to go one. You guys still hear me? It sounded glitchy for a second.
Yep.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, cool. So I highlight one. I can, another shortcut is I hold Alt and then press delete, and then it just deletes a whole word. So that's how I'm doing that so fast if you guys are curious. Workflow is something I really enjoy working on. It just makes it more enjoyable to code. Age, cool. Whoops. Life, motto, bam. Beautiful. What did I forget?
At all.
Equals what?
Empty square.
Empty array.
Why?
Not a clue. It's a container.
That's a good way to think about it. It's a container that you're going to be putting the new items in. So we're starting with an array, and then each iteration, we're building it up, building it up, building it up, building it up. So in other words, every single time I call a new class, every time I call a new follower, boom, next item. New follower, boom, next item. And that's coming from this line of code, right? I'm going to say all self. What I'm going to do really quick, I'm going to pop a binding.pry in here. How am I going to hit that binding.pry?
Follower or the follower.all.
Why?
Wasn't that in the follower class? I don't even. Or no, you were in the. Where were you?
So let's try it. Follower.all. Actually didn't work. Let's think about that initialize. What method is that linked to? In other words, what do I call from my command line that will send me into that initialize function? What does initialize mean?
So the initialize method, you're just like instantiating the instances inside of there.
I think what you did was throw out another cool word. But let's see if we can come up with like just a really like not technical definition, right? When you're initializing something, all you're doing is taking those variables. That all you're taking is the inputs, right? Like these, boom, fluffy kitty cult, 1999, Catland, fucking cats, bro, they purr and shit. All of these, what they are is they are attributes of the class. So what I'm doing when I'm initializing them is I'm saying in my new cult, I'm going to take these inputs. So in other words, when does that class get called? When does initialize get called? I mean, it's kind of in the name initialize, right? It gets called when you initially create it, right? So in other words, if I'm here and I type in cult.new, let's type in, this is not going to make sense, but here's what I'll do. I'll create another line of code here. Did I pop my binding.pry in there? I did. So in other words, when I run this line of code, it should actually hit it. Boom. No, it didn't hit it. Wait, what the fuck? Why is it not hitting that? Do I have it in all.self? Let me see. Try that one more time. Sorry. Ruby. Oh. Weird. It didn't hit it. Oh, that's because I made it in follower. It's because I'm calling it on cult, but we made it in follower. That's why. So what I like to do is I like to copy and paste it in temporarily so I know the order of things. Bam, I'm right there. So let's say follower.new our follower, let's say John. I'm sorry. John equals follower.new. So what do we have? Name. John. Also, I'm a narcissist, so that's why I started with my own name. The rest of names are just going to be variations of my name. I'm John, age 26. I'm about to be, I don't even remember if I'm 26 or 27, and my birthday is Saturday. Life motto is going to be,
Not my own birthday.
what?
Nothing. It's from old school.
What's my age again? There's an old school reference. Cool. All right. So now I'm going to take away this binding.pry. And do you guys think I'm going to hit a binding.pry when I run this code?
No idea.
You put one somewhere else, but no, you won't because it's not
on the environment.
Yeah.
We will.
Oh.
Undefined name for main object. I probably just misspelled something. Oh. I deleted it. That's weird. I don't know how I did that, but whatever.
Is that line commented out with initialized name, age, life motto?
No.
No, in the environment that we were just in. I just can't tell on my screen.
You're right. That's exactly what it is. I meant to.
Oh, all right.
Good. That was dumb. Hey, look, we hit it. So why did we hit it?
Nice. Because it made it through everything else until it hit that.
What line of code pulled that up?
11.
Do you have it in your follower?
Exactly. So it was this line of code. When I say I want a new follower, that means I am initializing a new instance of a follower. So when I initialize that, I'm taking these, I'm plugging it into here. Does that make sense? That's why I hit it. I just wanted to show you guys that, and that's why I put that binding.pry in there. But for now, I'm going to exit out of this. Cool. So now let's make a few new followers. Deanna is 23. Killing shit. Taking names.
John, you recording this?
I am. I think.
Sweet.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay.
I'll upload this.
You are, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I
Actually,
don't know where it records to or how I get that recording. So please don't hold me to it. But yeah, we'll find out. This is literally the first Zoom meeting I've ever hosted. This is the first lesson that I've ever taught that's technical.
hey,
that
man.
people were actually listening. So give me some leniency.
Appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And hang in there because I know this stuff's tough. Okay, yeah, so follower new. Oh, whoops. Our new follower is going to be.
But I actually got to roll out, guys. But hopefully, yeah, John, if you figure out how to get the recording, just.
I'm changing this to James then. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Good luck.
All right,
Thanks.
later, bro.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Shit, I cannot type. Great. So now let's just get to there, and then we'll throw a binding dot pry here. By the way, I think that there's a way to destroy these classes. Oh, actually, you know what? They automatically destroy. They don't save. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. That's future stuff. Cool. All right. So now let's check to see how everything's working. I'm going to go follower dot all. Something's wrong. Oh, we didn't make an all method.
Yeah. You did.
So what is my all method going to look like?
Self.all.
Def self.all. And then
What does this line do? What does that chunk right there do?
It's like the object that is doing this.
What if I were to call this that and then type in the same code inside? Could I still
It
get?
would. Sorry, you cut for a second. What was that? Could you still?
So I called this. So now let me reload all that stuff. Will it still work? If I type in follower.all, will it work?
No.
Is there a way for me to do the same thing that I want follower.all to do, given the way the code is written now?
Write one for John, myself, and James.
So actually,
Write a method for
I call
each.
this self.indiana, right? So I could actually just go in here and write follower.indiana. Look at that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So in other words, that's
you
kind
get
of
everybody.
I was thinking you wrote Indiana.all, not
right. Oh, my bad.
Right.
But yeah, the concept here is that whatever is to the right of this self, that's a method that you now call on this part. You're calling it on
For the
follower.
class.
Right.
Right.
And you could think it kind of makes sense. I want all of the followers. Imagine if I tried to call that on an instance, right? Would it make sense if I was going to say, I want all of the Johns? If I were to write John.all, that wouldn't really make sense. If I were to write Indiana.all, that wouldn't really make sense. Right now, if I were to write Indiana.Indiana, it would make sense, but that's only because I called it a weird name, right? Like if I type in Indiana.Indiana, it works. Thought it would. Anyways. It should work. Oh, wait, no, it wouldn't work. Indiana.Indiana would not work because you're calling all of the things on one of the things, which doesn't make sense. I just brain farted for a second. Right. So let's go back to calling this all. And then pretty soon we start to get to doing the fun stuff. But before we do any of that, the next thing that we need to do is we need to ask ourselves, it would be really nice if I could go in and say this to myself. I want to pull out the name. So I know Indiana is here. What if I want to know Indiana's life motto? If I just want to type in Indiana.life motto, will that work? No.
No. So you can do add a reader at the top with all the. So what's the difference between adder reader and adder? What is it?
I can't remember the syntax here. Yeah, that's what it is.
Adder accessor.
And then I do name. Let's just test it. I know what it is. But I'd rather show you than tell you.
Cool.
Okay. First I gotta do that. So I'm here, right? I don't know why I capitalized. Oh, I shouldn't actually have that capitalized. That will actually fuck you up. So let's say I say John. If I type in John.name right now, will that work?
Yeah.
Boom. It
I
works.
don't think.
What if I were to say John.name equals Jeff? Would that work?
No, not right now.
Why?
If you change it to
Because
an
it's an
adder
adder reader, not an adder accessor.
Exactly, and let's test that theory, right? Whoops. Okay. So let's give it a shot again. Look at that.
That helps a lot. I took the code challenge today, and I was like, they're like in quotations, like should be able to change later and should not be able to change later. I'm like, I don't know how to fucking do that.
So,
But
you know the difference?
that's almost certainly what they're talking about.
Yep. So an adder writer allows you to do what I just showed you, but it doesn't allow you to read it. An adder reader allows you to read the attribute, but not write it. And an adder accessor allows you to do both. I think for the sake of this, so we don't get too deep into it, what we're going to do is we're just going to make everything accessors.
Yeah.
And I'll set that up on all these, just so we can be quick, right? So, right.
What's even the point of a adder writer if you can't read it?
I'm trying to remember. There's use cases for all of these.
Someone said it was for like passwords where
Right. So
you.
that's kind of like what my thinking was, right? Like if you have a password, you might want to be able to change that password without anybody being able to see what the previous password was.
Yeah.
And there's more functionality that you'll get into later on down the road that makes that make a little bit more sense.
But rarely will you use a writer. Usually
you're not going to think about a lot of this shit for a while until you get the concept is that right now the whole school is exposing you to a ton of concepts. And yeah, it's tough for me to say what the use case is for that because I haven't had a circumstance where I've actually specified adder reader in a long time because what we do now is completely different. But that being said, I know for a fact that all the people that are deep into Ruby, all the people that are deep into Ruby on Rails, they know how to do this stuff because there's always those specific circumstances. And if you're programming for long enough, you just never know what you're going to encounter. So you got to have all your tools at your belt.
Sweet.
If that makes sense. And
yeah,
so
totally.
the code that we use now, this exists. We just aren't writing it ourselves.
I got you.
But yeah. So for now, we're going to go ahead and just say adder accessor. And then we're going to say name bounded
location slogan.
By the way, in Ruby, fun fact, like for some reason you don't need parentheses in Ruby. Like that works. It's like most of the times you don't need parentheses. And actually, I think this is one of the circumstances where you could actually have parentheses, but you don't need them. So I think that should be the same thing. Maybe not. Reading an error.
I think so.
I don't know about it there.
Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, there's probably like a more expanded version of this that I think sometimes learning the expanded versions make them make more sense, but I'm not good enough to really like speak knowledgeably on that. But you'll see things written like different ways all the time. Like it could be like maybe each of these is a hash or something like that. And that's why like this looks like that or something. But I don't know, so I'm not even gonna.
For adder reader, you can like enter each one down instead of in a line like that. That's the only other thing I know.
Yeah. Is this the right? Do these all need that? What do I do for follower?
No, I don't think those need
Oh, I
that.
put it in the wrong.
You have. Yeah.
I think they do.
I think
both.
I think accessor needs
Okay.
the colons.
Bro, my brain is just farting left and right.
You're telling me.
Okay. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Sweet.
Now we got to deal with this. Well, you don't actually have to deal with this yet. Let's put that off. Let's put that off until we absolutely need to do it. Okay?
Should we get rid of the colons on the initialize, though?
Yes. That's a force of habit, too, from later stuff. Whoops. I'm going to put this stuff on here, and you can just ignore it for now. You guys haven't learned anything about active record, right?
No.
No.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you do need these, but I'm not going to stress you out about that till we get to it, because my hunch is that's one of those things you're going to rewatch anyways.
Yeah, I think they just have like clunkier methodology to get from one to another. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could be wrong, so I don't know. I know that this should be able to work, so we'll find out. Okay. People keep telling me I need more space in my code, so I'm going to try and be maybe do a little learning while I'm teaching. Ah. Okay. So now let's look at some of these other shit we have to do. That was terrible English. Please excuse me for that. Okay, so we need... Do you mind if I chug through a bunch of these and you can watch after?
Not at all.
No, that's cool.
So we need cult location. Do we have that already? So if we think about it, we set up these adder accessors. What are our attributes for cult? Name.
Yeah, we have location.
Here, I called it founded, whatever, it doesn't matter. Location, oh, I say location.
Location.
And then slogan. So these give us, this is saying I need the name cult name, right? Then, by the way, if you look, I don't know if you noticed, it took me a little bit to debug this. You see how there's like a little hash there? What this is saying is that we need an instance method name.
Yeah.
And this is saying we need a class method. So I already proved to you I can sit here and say like John.name. That works. Cool. I could type in, fuck, I don't remember my things. I could type in, oh, I called all of these cult1. Oh, that was terrible. I gotta rerun these. But like, let's say I say cult1.name. It works. Maybe it doesn't. Cult1 work? Oh, maybe I just need to rerun it. Cult1.name. Cool. Cult2.name.
Fluffy kitty cult.
Fluffy doggy cult. So it's working, right? Cool. So that means that a lot of these methods, like there's a lot of them that we could just check off. Okay, we got that. Okay, we got that. Okay, we got that. We got that. Cool. Recruit follower. So this is where it's going to get tricky, but let's ignore that for a second. Cult population. Actually, we're going to need to do it sooner than I thought. Yeah. So we can't do recruit follower without setting up this relationship, right? So I think what I can do, is this the way that you guys saw this? Maybe this is what you saw. I'm not sure if I could do this, but can you say follower? This is what you were doing. That's what it is. And cult. Does that look more familiar, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's build out this class. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I was getting a little more complex with it with ID than you need to be. It's actually easier. You could do it that way, but this is easier. So you could just ignore what I did.
Cool.
Cool. Just like the other one, I'm going to make an all method. Ah, damn. Okay. Great. So now let's just build some of these, right? And by the way, do you guys understand how my join table just needs to reference both of them? That's something you could sort of, I really do think that the best way to think about that is to look at your ERD. So like, for example, we look at our ERD and we see that wherever these crow's feet are, I need to reference that. That's like actually my thought process. That's why I draw out these ERDs. It's so that way, like, let's say I have something more complex. I know that crow's feet needs to reference that thingy. So oath needs to reference follower and oath needs to reference cult. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is sort of how you reference it for now. There's more ways later on, but for now, this is actually a really good way of internalizing like what you're supposed to do. Because when things get more complex, it actually feels really similar later on down the line. If you remember this part of it, the ERD part, I am just scribbling everywhere, so I'm like a fucking 5-year-old. Now let's build some of these. The way that I like to call these, and it doesn't really matter what you call them later on down the line. You're going to see that there's kind of like an easy way of doing things, but I think to keep track of it mentally, this is useful right now. So John to cult 1 equals blood oath. What do I call it? I'm just going to make that. No, I should do it the other way. I can't remember. Oh, it is. What's it called? Camel cap case or something.
Camel case, I think. Yeah.
Well, there's a word for when you capitalize the first thing. I'll look it up. Upper camel case. John blood oath new, and then it goes initiation date, follower, and cult. So we're just gonna say 1999, sure. And then we're gonna say follower is gonna be, and we gotta look at the order. It goes follower and then cult. So for follower, I need to input the follower. What am I going to put here? If I want to take John, if I want this blood oath to represent John joining cult 1, what am I going to put it right?
John.
Yeah. John. It's going to go right here.
Would that normally, does it have to be a string or is it fine like that? Or
What have to be a string?
John.
So what you want here is the object. You want the whole object.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense? And actually,
Yeah,
let's go ahead and pop a bunny that right in here. Just to show you maybe why. So you guys,
I get it because it's what you're initializing into it.
Yeah. Oh, whoops. Cool.
Hit that first one.
Oh, no, thank you. Okay. This is my mom.
All right.
So I'm here now. Let's look up what John to Colt 1 looks like. Okay. So what I have is this big object, right? I have this blood oath. And then the first thing that I have is the initiation date. Well, it's they kind of store it last, I guess, for some reason. Maybe that's because of the order that I have stuff on here. No, I don't know. Anyways, what I also have is I have this object, right, at cult. That's this whole cult object, right?
Yeah.
And now at follower is this whole follower object. Now let's say I take John to cult and I want to just pull out the cult. I should be able to do dot cult. Oh, because I didn't set it up yet. Oh, that's why. We're gonna try that again. Oops. Look at that. So you see how I can just pull out Colt? By the way, do you see what I had to just fix in order to be able to pull out Colt?
The follower ID and cult ID.
Right, I just needed to make sure that the adder accessor was working. So the way that this adder accessor is working is the same as before. The only difference is now I'm pulling out an object instead of the other thing. And it's fine. It's whatever you put in here is whatever it's going to store as this variable is, you know what I'm saying? That's it. That's what's going down there. Cool. So now let's go ahead and we kind of get the idea of how that's working. And I guess it's just you and me now, James.
All right.
If you want to stop, you could also just let me know.
Yeah, more you let me know, because this is where I'm down for to watch this for sure.
Alcohol and coding is just a great combo. I was the person,
right.
I was the person that wrote that, and
yeah.
maybe you can attest to the statistical significance of alcohol on my ability to code. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah.
So now we'll join John to Colt 2. Let's do a, let's say Indiana to Colt 3. Let's do James, or let's do Indiana to Colt 2 also. Let's do, I'm just not really thinking too much about this. James to Colt 1. That way we share some Colts, you know? And then James to 3. Cool. So this is going to have to say James. This is going to say James. Indiana. By the way, getting some good seeds early on. If you get good at some of these shortcuts, you can do that pretty quick. And then it's not so time consuming that it's like really annoying. And it allows you to like your workflow is improved a lot when you do it, because you can test stuff a lot easier. I think we should change some of these dates. 2001, 20. Indiana started joining cults like later on in his life. You were a teenager. I was on the cult train before everybody else was.
Yeah, you were just.
I'm one of the cool.
You were Indiana born into a cult.
Yep. I'm gonna change some of these starting dates. 1999. Thank you. No, I want the dog cult. Year I was born. 1805.
All right.
Don't think too much about it. Okay, cool. So now let's run everything, and first of all, let's see if it runs, because that would be great if it did. Cool, it all ran. Look at that.
All right.
So now we have some interesting tasks. And here's where things are going to get like a little bit next level. So we want to see, and the whole purpose of this, and the whole purpose of the next thing that you're going to learn, which is active record, which is an object relational mapping tool. The whole concept is establishing these relationships between the things. Here, we have to do it manually, and they want to teach you how to do it manually because later on, you have to understand how the manual part works when you're doing something really complex. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there like, what the heck is going on? So the concept here, let me spit out my gum because it's just getting nasty. So let's say that we have, blood oath, cult environment. Let's go back to our learn code. Okay. So what we want is cult recruit follower. Okay, easy enough. So what we want is we want a method that we call, is this going to be a class method or an instance method?
It's going to be an instance method.
Right. So what we want is to recruit a person of a specific cult. So first of all, we got to go to the cult and create an instance method, right? And that instance method is going to be called recruit follower. Right? Def, what am I on right here?
Recruit follower.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I remember you from like the first day that I even went to like the WeWork building. I think I remember seeing you that day.
Where?
It was like on a Code on Campus day or something like that. I remember Ahmed talking about enumerables, and I'm pretty sure you were there. I could be wrong. Maybe that was.
No, I've never been to the campus.
Oh, never mind. It must have been someone else. I'm getting you confused.
It was my doppelganger.
Yeah, it must have been a doppelganger. Okay. Never mind. So.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I could just be getting it. I am looking at you over a screen. And now this is going to be recorded if I share it with a group, but that's okay. So, what's the next thing that I'm putting in here?
So, hold on. You got to do, is it just follower dot? What are you trying to do in the method? Sorry, I don't have it up on my screen.
We are trying to recruit a new follower for a particular cult. Right?
Oh, a new one.
And actually, let's look at that method again. So it says, takes in an argument of a follower instance. So first of all, what is a follower instance? What data type is that going to be?
Well, so I think you're just going to write follower.new, and then I don't know if you need parentheses or not, and then whatever the arguments are, name or.
Here's a good question. So recruiting a follower is actually different than creating a new follower, right?
Oh, I guess so. I don't know.
What it's really more of is what I want to do is I actually want to establish a relationship between a follower and a cult, right?
Oh, okay.
So what do you think is the new thing that you're right, you're close, because there's a new thing that I have to create in order to establish that relationship. But what is that new thing?
You've got I don't even know, that relationship somehow.
What is that? What is that? Okay, so you got cult, you got your follower. What is the thing in between?
Oh, a blood oath.
Exactly. I bet that just clicked, right? In other words,
I just don't know a lot about cults.
Exactly what you're trying. Exactly. So now we can type in, bloodoath.new, and then what's going to go in here? We're going to say a date. We need the
What's
date.
in blood oath?
Right. So we can look at it, right?
Initiation date, follower, and cult.
Mm-hmm. So let's go just
paste that bad boy in there.
date. Now, does this date have to be the same? So, by the way, what are we missing here? I kind of gave you a hint right there in what I just typed.
Oh, the arguments.
Exactly. So
I guess you put them there, and then I think it's got to say initiation date, but I don't know.
Let's see my way of see if it works. And then we can talk about why after. It will. Hint, hint.
Okay.
So what else needs to go in there?
Shit, now I can't remember. It was date. I have no idea. You threw me off because it's not follow your cult.
So follower. Now here's a question. Do I need this line? Do I need that variable? That argument?
I would have assumed. I guess not, though.
Where do you think I might get this cult from? So let's think about how I call it, right? When I call this method, what am I going to type in down here? I'm going to type in, let's think of an example. I'm going to say cult1 dot recruit follower, right?
Recruit follower, yeah. Oh, yeah, because you're already going to call one. That's literally what, okay, yeah.
So where might I get that from? Where
You're
might
getting
I
it from
get
the
that from when I'm
that
inside
this method's already in.
So how do I, okay, so like, I think that, let's delete this for a second because I think you kind of understand why. So I'm going to have date, follower, whoops, I can't fucking type. And then some variable that represents this cult. It's not going to say this cult, but what do you think I might put there instead of this cult?
Cult name.
So, what if I type, let's actually do this. For now, I'm just going to type in that. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to call upon it and see what's going on.
Okay.
Boom. So let's say cult1. What am I going to type in here to enter? Hit that button now, pry.
Recruit follower.
Recruit follower. Oh, what did I do wrong? What does this error statement say?
Oh, you didn't do recruit follower, John, or whatever the date is, and then John.
Yeah, we'll say 1990 or 1911. That's a really high date. Fuck it. And then John. Maybe we should do cult 3 because I don't think I belong to cult 3. Unfortunately. We're about to change that. Okay. Cool.
You joined way in the future.
So let's see if I can find something that I can type in that will give me what I want. So let's try typing in some stuff. What happens if I type in that name right now? What do you think that's going to return?
Well, now would it return John now that you just entered him in as a what? Oh, is that cult 1?
Exactly. So we called this method on what? We called this method using cult 3 dot
cult
follower. So this is the name of cult 3 because the instance that I called it on is cult 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
called it on the instance of cult 3, and the name of that instance is Scaly Lizard Cult. So now, what do you think founded's going to be? It's going to be whatever year cult 3 was founded.
Whatever year, yeah.
And remember this instance variable.
1805 or something.
So I called it on the instance, and look at that, 1805. And if I were to look up location. Hey, look,
Lizland.
Lizland. Cool. So that makes sense. But I want the whole object. I want to get the whole object.
Is that not when you would call the...
There's a simple answer here, and you're going to kick yourself when I tell you what it is. But I'd rather you try and figure it out now that I told you it's simple. It's
just
simple,
write
but it's
cult 1 or cult 3 or whatever it is.
I can't do that because what if I create cult 4? What if I create cult 5? I need this method to handle all different types of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what is that thing that represents cult 3? What is that thing that represents cult 4? I'll give you a hint.
Class?
Ding, ding, ding.
Or no.
Let's see what
it is?
like.
Instance of the class?
Yep. So in other words, when I called this, I typed in cult 1 or cult 3, I mean, and then I did dot recruit follower, right? So what that means is that because of the way that I called this, the thing to the left of this period is self. That's what self is cult 3.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Interestingly enough, what would self be if I put, and you could think about it like this too. If I were to type in cult.all, right? What is self inside of here? If I were to put a binding.pry in there, let's try it, right? But for now, you agree that, well, before we do that though, what's going to go in place of this? Because that's a mess. I got to get rid of that. What is going to equal the cult object?
Self.
Exactly. So first we'll test to see that it works. Take out of this. Whoops. Whoops. I don't know what I just did, but I did not mean to do.
Oh, God.
I think I just added a D. That was it. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to add this here too. So first, let's see that the recruit follower works. So now we're going to type in, what am I going to type in to recruit a follower to cult 3?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
What am I going to type in to recruit a new follower to cult 3?
Cult 3 dot new recruit follower. And then whatever the arguments you want to put in of the date that they joined, 2019, and then, or whatever. That's a...
So post-apocalyptic.
And then, Indiana or whoever.
Let's go, John.
Then,
oh, shit.
Okay.
Whoops. Cult 3 dot recruit follower. And then we're going to say John. And then that should be it, right? See if it worked. Look at that. It worked.
Sweet.
Cool. So now how do I test that? Actually, we can't. We don't really have a method to test it yet. What?
I thought that was the test.
What we could do is basically we would check our blood oath. We would go, the test would be blood oath.all, and we would see if we added it. Which I'm not going to read through all those, but it's working.
Sweet.
Lizland and John. See that?
Yeah.
Cool. So it worked. Great. So now let's try hitting that binding.pry inside of self.all. But before I hit it, what do you think? I'm going to hit the binding.pry. What do you think self is right now?
It's not all the cults.
So self. So I just typed in this, right? Cult.all.
Yeah.
What do you think self is? What was self before? Basically the thing left of this dot,
Self
right?
before.
I didn't call self.all, I called cult.all. So basically, if I look at self here, self is literally the class cult.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's what that's the way you think about it. When I call like cult1.method on cult1, when you're inside of that method, self is whatever is to the left of that period. It's whatever cult1 is. However, when I sit there and I call cult.anything, self is just cult. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I think it's worth internalizing. It's not a huge deal. I don't think self is something you see all the time. I don't know. I think it's nifty for understanding this stuff. Also for me,
I think that
because it's stuff that I didn't like remember, and now I'm like relearning, and I'm like, oh, cool. But yeah. So let's run through a few more like complex methods and just try and think about the process. And are you understanding this more? I remember working with the bank problem with you. And I bet this is probably making that make a little more sense. Hopefully.
Totally.
Okay.
Can we do like a super easy one real quick, just so that I can like, I think it's like the cult name one, the class method cult name. How do you write the method though? Just like def name.
You actually already did it. We already did it. Where did we do it? We did it.
Oh, that's what you did when you wrote adder accessor?
Yep. We actually created two functions there in one. All right.
So you don't have to write like a cult
Nope.
name.
That's what that does.
Like
The functional
name.
equivalent of me doing that would be like this. Def, let's say read name. And I could say, you know, like name. That's it. That's what this is.
Okay.
If this was and then also I could say this. You know, write name, and this time I would have to say like input, and then you could say at name equals input, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's effectively doing the same thing. But yeah. So what you're doing here is doing both those lines of code in one. You could also just choose to not allow you to do one or the other. So that's kind of nice too. But yeah. So you made those. Let's do a little bit more complicated one. That way you can look back on something and study from it. I think that would probably be pretty useful. Let's make cult.population is a really good one, right? So first of all is, if I want to find the population of a cult, is that going to be an instance method or a class method?
I'd say a class method.
Okay. Why? Is a cult a class, or is a cult an instance?
A cult is an instance, I guess.
So if you want to find the population of a cult, are you going to use an instance method or a class method?
You can use an instance method, actually.
Good. So population. here's where things are going to get a little trickier. And I think it's definitely worth doing the tricky stuff now, because I don't know that I'm going to have all this time tomorrow, because I'm trying to learn some new technology too. But yeah. Okay, so population. Cool. So great. So what do I need for population? I need to basically count the amount of followers that I have, right?
Yeah.
How do I get all my followers?
So
What is the thing that ties my followers to my cult?
to your cult, it's the blood oath.
Right, it's the blood oath. So what do we do to find? First, we need to figure out. Okay, I need to figure out what all the blood oaths are that have my cult in it, right? So in other words, let's say I go here right now, right? I type in bloodoath.all. I have this list of all my blood oaths. And I actually need to go and from my list, figure out which one of these has my cult in it, right? So for example, this is a cult here, this is a cult here, this is a cult here. How good are you feeling on enumerable stuff?
Decent. Better after today.
I'm going to write some code, and I want you to see if you could tell me what you think it's doing.
Okay.
Cool. So what I'm going to say is, let's say blood oaths. I'm going to go a little bit expanded equals bloodoath.all. You get that line of code? What that's doing?
You're just setting that variable equal to
Yeah,
the whole class.
it's just going to give me this array. That's all.
Okay.
Then what I want to do is I want to find, actually I want to select the blood oaths.
What's the other word for select? Reject?
Oh, I think filter,
Uh-oh.
but I'm not sure. I want to select for each blood oath. I want to select them when, and let's just say this, blood oaths. Oh, whoops. I should do proper Ruby stuff. Just do that. Blood oaths with the right cult equals blood oaths dot select, and then we want to select them where I should do this too.
On blood oaths dot select, which blood oaths is that? Is that the variable that you just set?
Blood. Oh, yeah, this should be that.
Okay.
Sorry about
And
that.
could you not just do the class blood oaths dot all
Right
instead of
here,
setting that?
Yes, you could. Right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just added that line of code so you can kind of for readability. But yeah, you definitely could do that. I'm gonna show you how to
Oh, okay.
this like a lot more than I'm doing it right now, because I would do this in this whole operation with like a line of code if I were writing it. Yeah, I could show you how you could do that. It actually doesn't look that sloppy. But in other words, we want to say basically for each blood oath, we want to find where blood oath. So the blood oath is what? Each blood oath, we're taking the blood oaths array, and in each item of that array is one blood oath. So we want to find where the cult stored in that. .cult, does that work? I don't remember the syntax here. I think it's .cult.
Yeah, as long as that's what it's called. Yeah, that's what it's called.
And we want want to find where that equals. I can't remember if you should use 3 or 2 in Ruby.
You do 2.
Let's just see if my method works first.
Do 2 equal signs.
Huh? It's, I
Do
think
2
3 works.
equal signs.
Why
Oh,
2?
does it?
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I think there's a difference between the two. I'm not sure if in Ruby there's a difference between the two. But in JavaScript,
Oh.
so they're both similar, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. Say I have these 2 statements. And I'm not sure if this is what it's like in Ruby. I'd have to double check, but I think this is what it's like. This is true. This is more rigorous, so that's false. So the extra equal sign factors in the data type.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because they just whenever you're comparing something, they always do 2 equal signs. We've never done 3, so but yeah,
Yeah.
it should be true also. So
I'm not sure. We can actually test it. Want to know a great way to test
yeah,
it? Anytime you're
Down
inviting
to
out
see.
pride, acts just like an IRB. So let's say I could literally say 1 equals 1. False. Oh yeah, so I guess that doesn't work in Ruby. In JavaScript, these two are fundamentally different. So I think in Ruby it treats both of these the same.
Oh, they're the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry for going down that rabbit hole. But yeah,
That's cool.
in some languages, the two are not the same. Like equals is different inherently than equals. And it might not be the worst idea right now to get in the habit of using 3 equal signs instead of 2. Because once you get to JavaScript, in general, you want your code to be as specific as possible. So
Okay.
if there was a difference in Ruby, which I guess there's not, it would be better practice to try and have those 3 equal signs, because if I tried to compare 2 data types that weren't correct, then there's something wrong with my code to where I shouldn't have written my code that way. And that's kind of why you use the 3 equal signs. But there's probably the 2 equal signs probably exist for like an extenuating circumstance or something. But yeah. So anyways, from here, let's go into seeing if this works. So I'm going to just exit out of all this. Oopsie daisies. Colt1 dot population. Oh, okay. So that means that everything ran, but why didn't I get the population back? So first of all, let's figure out what my answer should be by going here. Okay, so I have join Colt1 here. I've joined Colt1 here. So I should have 2, right? I should have 2 Colts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of them should be John and the other one should be James. So just to check to see that if what we did worked, we could see name is John here, name is James. You see how I can kind of check that real quick?
Yeah.
Cool. So as long as you're understanding that, that's good. And that worked. By the way, I suggest you go to this line of code and dissect it yourself, because I get you're probably in a little bit of a state of mind of like overwhelmed right now, and that's okay. But if you stick with me and then maybe go back and read it afterwards, I think that could be helpful. But,
yeah, for sure.
But we know that right now where this is at is that it's returning me this array. So from here, what do I do to get the count of this array? This is just an array, right? You can look, you can see there's a little array, right? So how do I get the count of an array?
Dot count.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, right.
I could do this, right? Blood oath with the right cult dot count, and then return that. Cool.
Yeah.
What if I told you there's like a way cleaner way to write this?
You could just put it literally attached to the end on line 28. Is that another way to write it?
Yep. I'm glad that you got that, so I don't have to explain that. That's good. Now I'm going to show you how to do all this in one line of code just because I'm an asshole. Okay?
All right.
So blood oath dot select, and then for each blood oath, fuck, I keep doing that. Oh wait, no, that is right. Blood oath dot all.
Okay, I was about to ask why is it not dot all?
For each blood oath, we want to find out where blood oath
Dot cult is equal to
I guess I could just do two equal signs.
self, and then close the curly brace and write in.
To me, that's like
Yeah.
a readable line of code. It's not like anything that's crazy hard to interpret, and I just think it looks beautiful. So I'm going to leave it, and we're going to test to see if it works.
You got to write self.
What do you mean? Slef won't work?
It might. That might be a thing.
I somehow doubt that. Look at that.
Nice.
Hey, virtual high five, the safe way in coronavirus. Yay. So we got that working. Let's go to the next one. And did you understand all that I just did?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, good. Good. The next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to upload this repo so you can work off of it as well.
Nice.
Maybe we could do a few more and then call it quits.
All right.
Cult population, cult.all, crossed off. Cult find by name. Takes a string argument that is a name and returns a cult instance whose name matches that argument. See if you could do this one. That's, again, cult.find by name. So we're taking a string argument and returns a cult whose instance. And by the way, you could think about this kind of, right? If I want to do a class method on cult.find by name, what do you think I'm going to, let's just say I know that the method is called find by name and don't know anything else about it other than it's a class method on the class cult. If you think about it, that name basically describes itself what it is. If I type in cult.find by name, what would you expect that function to do without looking at it?
Find me the cult's name.
Exactly.
Or no. Or yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it'll find you the cult given the name.
By its name. Yeah.
Exactly. So how am I going to write this? First of all, is it a class method or an instance method?
Class method.
Okay.
So then you call self at the beginning.
Hmm?
And then find by name.
Cool. What's going to go in here?
Is it literally just, it's not just, you probably got to do cult dot find. Is that a thing?
What is cult.find? So this is almost like asking me for a class method that's made called find.
Oh, so then you just write cult dot name.
What would cult.name give me? You're asking for the name of the class cult. Does that make sense?
No.
What if I did? What can I run? Find. Find is an enumerable. What can I run find on? What is it? What do enumerables operate over?
Oh, do you have to do cult dot all?
Oh. Find. Cool. And then I'll say cool way. And then we'll call this cult.
Cult. Yeah.
All right. So we think it's gonna go in here. By the way, I probably have to type in a name, right? So it's gonna need an argument of name or something.
Oh, okay.
I'll make
And
it
then
like,
that's when you do cult dot name cult name.
So I'm gonna say cult dot name equals
Oh,
cult name. You agree with that?
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, let's see if it works. So let's type in. Oh fuck! I made some complicated ass names. Cult dot find by name, and then we're gonna type in Scaly Lizard. Look at that! It worked.
All right, sweet.
So you can kind of see, like, once you kind of get the swing of how things are going, like, my hunch is you're going to have to do a lot of this yourself. But once you get the swing of how things going, it's pretty easy. Like, it's just like, to be honest, for me, it clicked. It was like I didn't get it. I was getting really pissed off, and then it clicked. And what I could also tell you is that the sooner you get this done in the week, the happier you will feel. I know, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth crunching out some practice problems. I would do that maybe get up early tomorrow or something like that. Like, don't freak out about it or anything like that. Like, you're gonna do fine. You're doing well. So it sounds like these concepts are grabbing. And also, y'all have had to learn how to do this shit like remote, which, to be 100% honest, I wouldn't be like as good as I am if I had to do that, because there was something about the energy of being there that like really pushed me to work harder. And that's why I'm going out of my way to like help people, because it's like I know that we had something that y'all don't have, so I'm like, let's try to create that for y'all, because that's got to be tough. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, I'm actually just saying it for the video, so that way. What's up, doctors? No, I'm just kidding. But for real, yeah. Is there any other ones you wanted to do before I go sleep? Because pretty tired. It's later here in Florida.
Oh yeah, damn! It's 9:45 there.
Yeah, it's pretty late, and I've been up since 7 and got like 5 hours of sleep.
Oh damn. Could you just like, I don't know if there's a quick way. These ERDs. How do you know? Like, there's just, I don't know. I'm not that good at those.
Let's draw some. Let's do it. Let's think of a thing. This is, by the way, I think the best exercise you could do to understand this is try and create your own data model. Even just the ERD. Try to think of one. It's tough. It's actually harder than you would think to just come up with one out of thin air. But I think when you do it, it creates like a real problem, and then it helps it make it stick, to me at least. That's what made it stick for me. I tried making one with like characters and moves in a video game. It was like the concept in my head. But let's see if you can just make one up. Just make anything up. Hobbies. It's like hard. It's hard to do. So like.
Yeah, like I don't even know where to really start.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to like think.
Like,
let me think of a one-to-many relationship. It's tough unless you've done it a bunch. Which like the instructors do it really fast because they've done it a ton of times. But it's not. It's really actually pretty tough. But let's think of one, because that's a useful exercise, and that's going to help you thinking about how you're actually going to create websites. So what about like, what do you do for fun?
Nothing really. Work on my car and snowboard.
Okay, you work on your car and snowboard. Okay. So what about snowboards and riders? All right.
Yeah.
Snowboard. And you can set the parameters however you want. Rider. Okay, so for each snowboard, how many riders can it have? One rider or many riders?
If it's your own board, only one rider really, but If it's a rental board, it can have many riders.
Yeah. So let's choose one of the examples for now for the sake of simplicity. I don't know why I drew that. I'm just tired.
So I mean, I guess many riders
Sure. So let's
per
think
snowboard.
about it. Yeah, let's think about this like a rental shop. Okay.
Yeah.
One snowboard can be rented out to many riders, but each rider can only rent one snowboard. It's not exactly correct, but like we could just think about it like that for now, and then think about how we could solve the problem. Or if you want, we could actually make this a many-to-many relation. Actually, I got a better idea. So one rider can rent many snowboards, and also one snowboard can get rented by many riders. And maybe what's the thing that connects them? Maybe like a contract.
The rental shop?
What about a contract?
Okay.
Because here's what's interesting about a contract, right? If I have a contract, one contract only has one snowboard, and one contract only has one rider, right? So here, whoops, one contract has one rider, but one rider can have like 3 contracts. And one snowboard can get a lot of contracts because it can be rented a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
So now you have this nice little relationship that's a many-to-many relationship that's effectively the same as blood oath, right? In other words, right here, you have your cult. Here you have your follower. And here you have your contract. And now what you have is you have your 3 objects that you can treat. So in these objects, right, what do we know that contract is going to have to have? What attributes?
A snowboard and a rider.
Sure. Snowboard and a rider. Snowbard. It's a snowbard. So they say it in Ireland. All right. So that's actually not super difficult, right?
No. Okay.
And this is it's that simple. It's that simple, and it's so easy to overcomplicate because it's kind of scary, but it's actually that simple. It's nothing crazy. You want to try doing another one? What was the other thing you said you liked? Car? Your car?
Yeah. Yeah.
So owner. We'll stick to many relationships for now. Car. And maybe like a lease.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, this join table doesn't have to be something that like makes sense. It could literally be this. Owner to car. You know what I'm saying? It could literally just be that. And this thing could store absolutely nothing but the time you instantiate it. And then, or it could not even store that. You could set it up to where literally all it stores is the owner in the car. And the concept will still work. Does that make sense? You need a join table to establish this relationship. So it literally doesn't necessarily have to be something complex like that. It could literally just be owner to car. That's it. But you need that join table to even establish a many-to-many relationship. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you need a single source of truth, right?
You know, I saw that keyword in there, and I'm like, fuck, I hope they don't ask about that because I forgot the correct way to describe that. I saw that keyword in there right before I started this lesson. I'm like, oh crap, am I going to be able to do this? Which I think I did okay. I think I did okay teaching. I think I definitely started off weaker, and then it like all kind of came back to me like I thought it would. But
It's got to be.
it's weird because you'd be surprised at how much you forget, but then you'd also be surprised at how easy you can remember it.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you learn it right. Like if you learn it where you just like that's the difference. If you learn it where you're just memorizing stuff, there's going to be a point where you just forget it. But if you learn it where you're actually internalizing the information, it's more like you're rediscovering how something works. Like, oh yeah, I see how these things go together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
I'm probably going to call it for now. I'm going to try and post a video, and I am going to whatchamacallit. My brain just quit on me. I'll upload this GitHub repo and post that in there too.
Cool. Thanks, John.
All righty.
Much appreciated, man.
Yeah, I think that should be enough to set you up in the right direction to where you could finish Blood Oath. I think that.
No, I think so too.
Yeah, the hard concepts, the rest of it is just like, oh, can you do math? You know what I mean? But the concept is really understanding the workflow between that stuff. There is some tricky stuff with maybe like data types, like if the two float stuff kind of threw me off a little bit, but it's also something that I think is more like, I can Google stuff and work through this. It's less like a deep conceptual concept. That was redundantly redundant. Okay. All right. Well, glad you got a lot out of that. I will do more of these in the future happily because I genuinely just like want to see people succeed. So
appreciate it. I'll be there.
All righty. I'll see ya. Have a good one.
All right. See you, man. Yeah, you too.
Bye. Let's see if